it was that gut feeling. Like, I could see that there was a gap on the market. It was very evident. So I just jumped into it, got the website made. And because a lot of the incumbents they've been running for 20, 30 years. And so their websites were kind of old and not really, it wasn't a tech-focused industry. So as soon as we made the website with a good web developer, we got our website to, number one on Google within like 3 or 4 months. And then it just exploded. So we didn't even need to do any marketing.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Organization Business Podcast. I am your host, Linh Podetti. My guest today is Borian Milic, founder of Steel Windows and Doors and an EO New Zealand member since 2020. A former architect, Borian transitioned into bespoke manufacturing, producing high-end windows and doors for the New Zealand construction market. Now, in this episode, Borian shares the steep learning curve of starting a manufacturing business in a field where he had no prior knowledge. Determined to move from selling his time for money as an architect to building a successful manufacturing company, Borian provides valuable advice on how to start and grow a manufacturing business. Join me in welcoming Borian. Welcome to the show, Borian. It's so good to have you on today.
Thank you.
I had the fortunate opportunity to meet you months or maybe last year sometime. And I remember introducing a friend to EO, and he was so grateful that when he went to New Zealand, I'm like, hey, catch up with Borian. So it was a really, such a great timing. I got to know you really quickly, and I was able to, introduce to a friend. But anyway, today I wanted to really understand more about your journey in business. So let's get started and let us know into your journey from an architecture into manufacturing. So how did you start your business?
Yeah, so I started off as an architect, finished my degree, went into working for myself because I kind of struggled to work for people. And then, I had a couple of customers that wanted this particular product that we're making now. When I was an architect, and I went to existing suppliers, and there was just a massive demand, but no real supply. Like, it was just so constrained that lead times were like 12 months to 18 months. So what I did is just tested it out really lean, like a very lean kind of way, and basically did the shop drawings myself. That I could do the drawings, the design, and then imported the materials that we needed, and then outsourced the fabrication. So it was like a really low cost way of testing an idea out. Got a cheap website made. And once I realized that the idea worked, it just wasn't quite perfect because it's such a niche product that the guys that are making the stuff, the workers, the fabricators, they need to be really skilled in this particular field. And so after testing it on a few jobs, I actually went and set up a workshop, got staff, and slowly built it up from there. So I just started off with me and 1 or 2 other guys. So me in the office, and then 2 guys fabricating, and just slowly built it up from there. That was in 2019. So it's been about 5 years. Well, yeah.
So tell me about your services. People make an order for their windows and doors or something, and is it for residential or commercial? Tell me more about what you provide.
It's both residential and commercial, but it's ultra high end. So the projects we're working on are sort of the 10, 5, 10, $20 million bills, both and commercial. Commercial ones be even more than that. But yes, that's sort of really exclusive, kind of high end. And so naturally the product needs to be amazing, because what people are paying for is literally, like for a whole house lot of these windows and doors, it would be the price of sometimes the price of a Rolls Royce. So it needs to be like amazing. And it is like a standout product, which is what's really cool. Like, we get customers, like we had one the other day who came in and he was telling us how his wife came home and saw the windows installed, and she was like in tears because it was like so like transform the space, So it's really good to have, or to make a product like that people get really excited about. It's not often you get building products that people get kind of really emotional about. They're not going to get excited about plasterboard or stuff like that, electrical fittings. So it's quite cool having that impact.
That's really interesting because I've done some renovation and build, but I never thought too much about windows. But now I'm going to be more mindful and see the window. So are you saying at that time you were in architecture and you basically did a lot of designs around windows as well? That's why you kind of naturally went into this product particularly? Because I mean, there's all the other parts of the house. Why did you get into this?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're an architect, you do design, the whole building. You design the size of the windows, type of windows, everything like that. And because it's like a very nice product, very aesthetic, very aesthetically pleasing, architects love to work with it, clients love it, and so naturally it was kind of being an architect, I liked to design pretty things, and so the doors are naturally like they make spaces look amazing. So it was kind of a natural progression, I think. And a bit of naivety, thinking that it was going to be easy. Like you're just, getting these lengths of steel and cutting them and welding them and then, easy out the door. But it's a lot more complicated, like jumping from a service business, a professional service, into bespoke manufacturing. Manufacturing's hard enough, but doing bespoke, which is every single thing that you make is custom bespoke, that's a whole other level. So
yeah. And so I heard, so with your timeline, you mentioned that you started in 2019, so that was also before COVID. So how was it like starting a bespoke manufacturing business and just before COVID? How did that affect you?
Yeah, and then naturally there was a building boom in 2019. And then going into 2020, we had a good amount of forward work, but obviously like everyone freaked out during COVID, like what's going to happen? We were in lockdown and I was like, shit, what's going to happen? Like we don't know what's going to happen. Everything could just collapse. But weirdly, because people can travel, so all these people that we kind of cater to, this market, very, very high end, they're not traveling. They're not, so all everyone was doing was just building houses, renovating, developing, and so it actually, like, we had crazy growth over that period, so much so that it was almost like kind of almost death by choking rather than starvation. We had too much on. There's definitely like a sweet spot in terms of growth. Like you can't grow too fast, otherwise it falls apart, especially in complex stuff like bespoke manufacturing.
Yeah. And so when you first started your manufacturing business, did you still keep your architecture side of the business so that you could fund this business? Or like, what was the difference in starting a professional service business? Where for me, I've always started in that and it didn't really cost me anything to start. Now with manufacturing, I'm assuming there's a lot of capital outlay. How did you fund it?
Yeah. So like you said, like barriers to entry for services business are really easy. Like it's low cost to start up. You got to get some software and, you got to have some skills, obviously. So that was quite easy. But in terms of setting this up, it's totally different. You do have to have some initial outlay. So I got a loan for that. Luckily, it wasn't a huge amount. But then as you go on, you can, like for jobs, you can actually get deposits in advance. So you can get deposits in advance for materials, etc. And then that kind of funds your project to a point, and then you carry on billing. So that's like, without that aspect, it's quite hard to grow and to manage your cash flow. And there's a whole lot of things you got to learn, like in terms of finance, when you're starting manufacturing, because if you're getting deposits, you got to factor in those. They're not counted as sales, they're deposits in advance. So they sit on the balance sheet as a liability. So there's a whole lot of complexity to it. And then you're managing, tracking the job progress. So you got to then deduct from the deposits in advance. So it's very, very complicated in terms of business model compared to services. And said that, doing it and jumping into it was really like kind of diving into the deep end of the pool and trying to learn how to swim. And that paid off, like, because a lot of other things seemed quite easy to me after doing that. Yeah.
So were you able to leverage from the customer base that you already had, or, I can imagine how busy it is to set it up and do the fulfillment. Did you also still have to worry about sales and marketing, or was it just all, organic and
luckily, I mean, luckily it was a real niche, and as I said, I kind of jumped into it naively. If I was to start anything else, I'd do a lot more research and stuff. But it was just kind of intuition. It was that gut feeling. Like, I could see that there was a gap in the market. It was very evident. So I just jumped into it, got the website made, and because a lot of the incumbents they've been running for 20, 30 years, and so their websites were kind of old and not really. It wasn't a tech-focused industry. So as soon as we made the website with a good web developer, we got our website to number one on Google within like 3 or 4 months, and then it just exploded. So we didn't even need to do any marketing. And the other thing to consider is actually, you got to think about what sort of product you're selling, because like Google Ads, for example, didn't work for us. I just didn't. So you just get tire kickers, because the people that are looking for these windows and doors, these high-end products, they're not going on Google and looking at ads, for 8% discount or whatever. Like, that's not how it works. It's all very intimate and has to come through architects or gets priced by builders. And we just didn't need to do any marketing. Like, when we put Google Ads on, we'd get tire kickers saying, calling us up and being like, hey, do you do aluminium windows and doors? And we're like, no, we don't. Like, we only do steel. It's in the name. It's steel windows and doors. And they're like, oh, your website's very misleading. I'm like, well, how is that misleading? Like, it's in the name. So we just cut that completely and just focus on that kind of bespoke, just actually talking to architects and builders privately.
Yeah, that's a really great strategy. And knowing that what you know now about manufacturing, you've been in it for like 5 years now. Any regrets? Do you wish that you were just in the professional business because it's easier, or there are the advantage to manufacturing that you have started to enjoy?
I don't. I really enjoy the experience. Like, being a professional, like in the architecture field of construction, it's a very long process. Like, the start of a project from conception to completion is so long. Like, even me, when I was working in it, it was like 3-4 years sometimes, and you just get bored. I like to just jump onto the next thing, and so this means we can. The longest project we'd do is maybe 6 months or so, sometimes a year if it's like a really dragged out project, it's delayed the site and stuff. But I like that aspect of it, just kind of quick turnover, high volume, rather than kind of being stuck doing the same thing for a long time. And the skills that I've learned just a whole other level in terms of, every aspect of business versus just, trading time for money, I guess.
So your motivation for starting this business, because as an architecture, you felt like you were more like a technician, a self-employed person working with clients, trading time for money. Where did you get the idea? Did you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Because I think that was the book that got me into thinking Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and also E-Myth, that really got me to ensure that I scale my business beyond myself. Like, what really pushed you apart from, obviously the opportunity popped up, but were there any influence in anything that you've learned at that time?
I think I just realized, like, with the services business, like, very few of them you can actually sell. Until you get them to a certain scale, they're very hard to sell. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to, like, even when you got staff, it's still hard to get it to a point where you can sell it, because it is just a service. And when you're selling a product, it's definitely easier. Like, again, sometimes it can be hard, but on a broad scale, it is a lot easier to be able to exit that with some sort of, payment at the end. Yeah. And it's got more potential to scale, I think.
Yeah. I guess my husband manufactures air conditioning products, and I've seen his journey. I guess some of the challenges that as you grow, you need to go and find new complexes because you outgrow the current one, then you have to move. Have you, had to move, or like, is there a capacity issue with the manufacturing side of things?
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, it gets like your workshop spaces get filled up super quick. But one thing that we did the last couple of years, which was huge for us, was utilizing lean manufacturing. So it's like it's a philosophy, I guess, of how to organize your space, your systems, processes, everything. And we've heard stories of people implementing lean and tripling their productivity with no change in floor area, no change in staff. So it has a huge impact. It covers everything, like from getting rid of stuff that you don't use anymore, which is just clogging up space, to how you create purchase orders based on your stock levels and your systems and metrics, dashboards, all that sort of stuff, tracking data. All that stuff's been huge, and we actually managed to, like, some months we doubled our productivity compared to before we did lean. So lean just comes from, there's some dispute around who kind of started it, but it's associated with Toyota in Japan.
Yeah, so I heard that. Yes,
their whole system and how they really came up as the sort of top car manufacturing world.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about your role now. Like, I know when you're starting out, we all have to wear so many hats. But now 5 years in manufacturing, I'm curious to know, like, what is your typical role like? Do you get to spend more time, strategizing, come up with new ideas like lean marketing lean production? Because the reason I ask is sometimes I laugh at my husband. When I come to his work, he's driving the forklift. I said, "What are you doing? Why are you in production? You need to be working on it." So curious to see on your side.
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. Like we went through phases. Like, it's always hard to get to that next stage, that sort of stage of stability. So your kind of survival stage, and then stability, and then you can kind of start working on this stuff now, like the business development strategy. So like now I would probably say I'm spending about 15 hours a week, maybe 10 hours a week on that business in terms of actually just operational stuff. The rest is all being covered by the staff. So like I have a really good relationship with the Philippines, and we have about 7-8 staff there. And it's been a huge factor in terms of optimizing our systems and processes, and just adding extra resource for us to be able to fulfill customers' needs. It just doesn't even compare to having people here. The work ethic is on another level. The loyalty, the gratitude, we pay them really well as well. So they're happy and we're happy, but it's still, massively beneficial for us. So they cover a lot of that legwork for us. So we've still stayed really lean, but as I said, with that team and the team in the office that we've got, it's cut down my time on actually working in the business to about 10 hours. And I'm probably taking on too much now in terms of the strategy and development. Like I'm probably spending like 3 days a week on that now.
Yeah.
But that's just natural for me. Like I just always love to overload myself with new ideas and new concepts. So
that's the entrepreneur curse. We're always thinking of ideas. I love that you're utilizing offshore staff, because my husband, being in manufacturing, he's quite old school, and he hasn't embraced the virtual assistant because he really thinks that I need to see them, I need them there. So what are some of the roles that they work with you for? Is it like taking orders, or I'd love to hear a little bit about how you utilize them for your...
We mapped our whole process, our business process, and then from there we could see where those sort of touch points are, where we can actually kind of take that out. It doesn't require someone here. So, for example, estimating, like a large majority of it, if we've systemized it, that can be outsourced to the Philippines. And so they're doing the pricing for most of our stuff, and then maybe once or twice a week we might need to review something because it's complex, for example. But that still saves us, like 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week. Then we've got people doing bookkeeping, so finance stuff. So getting into Xero, all the invoices, quotes, purchase orders, credit notes, reconciling everything. And then we've also got designers. So for our product, we need to do drawings to send off, to get signed off. And so 90% of that, again, is done in the Philippines. We've systemized it. We've got a library of components, parts, project templates that can then be done over there, and then we review here. Another area is just operational admin, so doing purchase orders, updating customers on status updates, and then also managing our project management software. So they're in there updating, where our projects are, stages, everything. So there's a lot of area. Like, I was skeptical at the start, but once you actually get them involved, it's just so much easier. They're intuitive, they're diligent. Just the care is there, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Once you get it working, it's like clockwork. It's amazing. So with your production team, like how many staff do you have? Like, I just want to understand a little bit, like if people are ordering a window or like how long does it take to actually produce and how many people need to work on it?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the project, or the size of that particular unit. Like some doors that we're making can be up to like $150,000. So like really, really expensive. So you can range from around 7 to sort of 9,000 up to 150 for one. And that obviously dictates how long it takes. But one, say, set of French doors for us would take maybe a week or a week and a half for one guy to make, and that cost comes in because there's such a large labor component. Whereas any other type of joinery, any other type of window or door like aluminium or timber, they're a lot quicker. Like they can make a whole house lot of windows and doors in the space of 3-4 days. Whereas for us, just one unit could take a week for one guy.
Yeah,
it really is like a craftsman bespoke product.
Yeah. So then, because it's so bespoke, are you still involved with like figuring out, okay, how we're going to build this and how we're going to make it because it's so different? Or have you got someone that, are good at that?
Yeah, we do. We've got someone who's good at that. The principles are all there. There's probably only about 5 or 6 types of doors. And they are different each time, but we've done so many now that you can kind of just extract stuff from previous ones and plug it in. So yeah, we still get the odd one that's like really new, but once you build up that library, it becomes a lot easier to just copy and paste a lot of those things.
Yeah. And my husband often tell me that if you make a mistake in manufacturing, it's such a costly mistake. Like you could, build it wrong and then that's it. It's thrown away. No one wants it anymore. Is that the same in your case where you have to be a lot more diligent?
Yeah, it is. It's a huge, and that's where that whole lean thing comes in because those consultants helped us actually work through those issues and create methodologies for avoiding them in the future. Because when you think of what the door costs, it's a huge time waster. And luckily with steel, you can re-weld certain things, so that means we don't need to throw away the material. Luckily, most of the time, if we made a mistake, but it is. It's a huge cost of manufacturing because you're basically losing double. You're losing double time because you're fixing something in that time that someone could be working on something else. So.
Well, knowing when you know now, what tips would you say if someone says, "Hey, I've got an idea. I want to manufacture this, product. Maybe heavy duty like the things that you're in or my husband's in." What advice would you give? Or maybe, I know there's probably a lot of advice, but maybe the top 3 things that you would say to them.
I think definitely getting a real feel for the market, like doing serious research. Sometimes you can just tell intuitively, like I did it, but you do want to do like serious market research on who that core customer is, analyzing like your attribute maps, actually understanding where you would fit in terms of the market choice. Like what do your competitors have that, like, what are their attributes? Are they low cost and fast? And then so work out where you can carve out a niche. That's definitely probably the biggest one. Second one would be just get into it, start making some steps, because a lot of times people will kind of and and wait for things to be perfect. Like it's just so much better to start something. That's probably like one of the benefits of being ADHD like me, because I just jump into things impulsively.
Yeah.
For better or worse. It's worked out okay. I think those are probably the two biggest ones. And looking at industries maybe that are related to the field that you're in now. So, for example, after the steel windows, I worked with other subcontractors, so people that do painting, powder coating, all that sort of stuff. And I saw a gap in the market there, and I actually started another business last year with a fellow EOer, Marissa. You might know her. And yeah, like that was just purely from me working with another field and kind of seeing the gap in the market, and there's an opportunity here, and it doesn't even have to be like a market where there's lack of supply. It could just be a market where there's bad service or a long lead time, so it doesn't have to be like a blue ocean. It could be reasonably saturated, but just with really like lacking quality service or lead time.
Yeah, I love those tips, by the way. So just a little bit about your journey. How did you know about EO? How long have you been at EO?
I've been in EO since 2020. I initially was like hesitant to join. I just wasn't sure kind of what it entailed. And then a friend of mine, his dad was in it. He's been in it for like 20 years, and he was like, definitely join, definitely. It'll be worthwhile, especially if you're a sole founder, like on your own. It's massively beneficial. And so I joined 2020, and I can't say anything bad about it. It's been like, I've learned more from EO than any other thing that I've joined or attended. It's just been like huge in terms of learning like how much I've grown as a business owner. Having that support network from your own forum, and then meeting other people, like starting that business, the second business with someone else in another forum, just from meeting in a one-to-one kind of catch up. And it's just the people that really can sympathize with what you're going through. They understand what you've been through. Everyone's at different stages. But even if someone's sort of early on in their business journey, even the more experienced guys can still learn from those people, because it's always the different perspectives. And that's what I love that you joined during the time that you're quite new in this business. So most people might say, oh, I'm so busy, and how am I going to find time for that? But, how did you make time for that? And was it important that you were in EO during that time that you were starting out? Yeah, I think it was. And I just kind of did it. I mean, it's, when you start off, it's really just once a month for 4 hours, really, with forum, until you kind of get into the governance side of it and being moderator or whatever like that. So it wasn't actually that big a commitment, and you just got to make time for it. You just got to prioritize it, and it makes it all the worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, earlier on when you first started, what did success mean for you back then, and what does success mean for you now?
Back then, it was really, there was no kind of approach. It was really just trying to get something to work. Like for me, it was getting this thing and this business to work as a machine. Like that's what I've been focusing on. That's the hardest part, because there's so many different aspects, with operations, sales, finance, and all these different things. That's what I love about business. You get exposed to all these different aspects. They're like really critical life skills. It's almost like a game, finally a game, like a hard puzzle to solve. And that's what I love about it. So that's what my goal was, really just getting something that could run efficiently without me. And that then the money is just a byproduct. You're not really kind of worried about that. If you just focus on the actual operations and the skills, and the reputation of the business, that was my key. And at the moment, I think it's just growth, really expanding into new opportunities, because naturally I've got all these ideas and I want to carry on scaling up the business and getting it to another level.
So success seems to you like a bit of a challenge, personal development and professional growth.
Yeah, it's being personal. It's almost like proving to myself. I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. I just want to prove to myself that I'm capable of this. It's just like, playing a video game and you go from level to level and then you face harder challenges and, the reward is at the end when you kind of beat the big boss, I guess. And yeah, so that's it for me. It's just developing those skills, being a really well-rounded person, not just professionally, but actually personally. And, through business, you learn, aspects of human resources, for example, like learning how to deal with people, their emotions, their empathy, emotional intelligence. So it really is like a personal endeavor as well.
Yeah. So with everything that you've learned, with all the experiences and knowledge you've gained, what do you want to be remembered for? What impact do you want to make in this world?
Yeah. I just want to be able to help others that are kind of wanting to go on this journey. Because for me, it was quite hard. Like my parents were, they work as architects for themselves and they never really got into business. I didn't have any kind of support there. Got into business on my own, didn't really have any support. So I want to definitely help other people go through this process. So, whether it's being a mentor or, something like that, like an advisor. And then also just like actually giving back to the community. Like I want to get to a point where I'm, really financially stable. I don't have to worry about working so much. I can actually help other people who are less fortunate. Because some people don't even get the chance to, start a business or, even consider it. So I definitely want to do that. Because life's all about relationships. I'm not here to like hoard money or anything like that. I want to actually relationships that are long lasting and mutually beneficial.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Borian. That was so beautiful and I can so resonate with you. It's all about us learning and then eventually giving back everything that we've learned in life. So thank you for your time today. And I'll make sure to put all your details in the description below so people can get in touch with you.
No. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.